Today's video is packed with wisdom that will help you grow. And I'm thrilled to introduce you to Marcia Genjelian, who will be guiding you through today's insights. You're in for something really special, so let's dive in.
A little over 2 years ago, I found myself at a crossroads in life. I'd achieved everything that I'd set out to achieve. I got my dream job, I got my dream salary. But here's the truth, I was so miserable inside. I'd spent years chasing what I thought was success in a high-powered, male-dominated environment. And when I achieved everything I'd set out to achieve, I felt so empty. I felt so unfulfilled. I hit a breaking point. I knew something had to change. If you've ever felt trapped in a life that looks great on paper, but doesn't align with your soul or who you are, then you'll understand what I mean. I was a marketing director in the hospitality industry here in the UK. I joined as an assistant. I then became a marketing manager, senior marketing manager, head of marketing. It was almost like this virtual ladder that I wanted to climb. And the hours were really long. Sometimes I did like 17, 18-hour days. I also looked around and I wasn't surrounded by many female leaders. So it was hard to kind of see myself in the senior teams of the businesses that I was in. The couple of female leaders there were behaved very similarly to the men. So it was almost like that was the blueprint for success. There was no different approach to working. I just then adopted that as my own blueprint. Whilst I really did enjoy my corporate career, I started to notice, I wouldn't even call them red flags, a flickering red, because it was flickered. It was like this tiny orange and then they went. I justified it and pushed it away again. That's the job. I really love the analogy of a frog. If you put a frog into boiling water, it would just jump straight out. But if you put it in cold water and turn the heat up, it doesn't notice and it just stays in there. And I think that's exactly what happened to me. I think if I'd have dived straight into it and I'd seen that, then I probably wouldn't have accepted it. But so many things got justified as you went along. And to be in the boys' club, you need to have great banter. I adopted the banter too. Our meetings were just blurs of, in the early days, whiskey, cigars. We were having meetings in strip clubs, and if you weren't at the strip club, you just miss out. So that's where I had to go, just to have that seat on the table. As I became more senior, I was exposed to more conversations that made me very uncomfortable. I just thought that was part and parcel, and I was probably, in hindsight, incorrectly focused too much on the fact that I was climbing the ladder. I probably put the importance on that over calling out the stuff that I was seeing, which is actually a really big regret of mine. When I finally got to what I thought was success, it just felt so empty. I was expecting a marching band to come out and go, "You did it, well done," and everything would be incredible. The day I decided to make a change came when it just got too much. And I was like, enough is enough. And then a week before that moment happened, I remember one of my junior colleagues came up to me and said, "You're the hope and why I'm still in this job, because I see you on the board and I think you'll be the one to change the culture. I trust the fact that you're there representing some of us." I thought, I'm going to have to speak up. I had a conversation with somebody I trusted, a chairman of the business I work for, and he was really shocked. He was going to speak to the CEO, because ultimately the CEO had the jurisdiction. And things moved quite quickly after that meeting. I got ignored by the CEO, I got cut out of meetings, and then it just culminated when I was invited to a very fancy restaurant with the CEO one-on-one, and he just asked me why I was lying and why I was making up stories. And I was like, wow, you're in these meetings as much as I am. You're either kind of deluded or you're covering something up. And I just knew it just wasn't going to get anywhere. And I remember he had to rush off for a meeting and he was like, "Oh, could you just settle the bill, please?" I never actually got compensated for the bill, and it was a ridiculous bill. And then 2 days later, I was fired for dishonesty, which is unbelievable. That moment being handed that piece of paper that gave the reason of why I was being fired was my dishonesty. And I was like, what? I just don't identify with this word at all. It's all in black and white. It's all this legal paper. Maybe it's true. And then I just went down a path of questioning absolutely everything. And I was probably not honest enough. That was a hard bit of paper to receive. And then what followed was was horrendous. It was like the hardest year of my life. I actually did nothing for the first couple of months. I just kind of stayed at home, stayed in bed, and I was really embarrassed. I kind of hid from everything, and I questioned everything, and I went round and round in circles. And even though I didn't regret what I had done, because I knew I'd got to the point where I couldn't stay, it doesn't matter whether you did it for the right reasons. It was like that was the kind of the jurisdiction of the law on me, that doesn't matter the reasons, that was the outcome. And I think what was most difficult was in that moment, my identity came crashing down as well, because I'd adopted certain behavioural traits and things that I thought I needed to get ahead. I actually became further and further from who I was. So a year prior to this, I'd actually enrolled in the Jay Shetty certification school. I had a big clash of who I was in the day in my corporate role, because I was studying at night, and being surrounded by the most kind-hearted people that were in the school, to then, fighting for your job in every boardroom environment, and that kind of cutthroat, ruthless, people wanting to throw other people under the bus. So I swept my work at the school under the carpet, and I was like, it's not the path that you define success as, so let's prioritize what's happening in corporate. I dropped out. Then back to that few months after I was at home and I was kind of reeling from being fired, I decided to go back to the school. Dropped a note to my old mentor, and I explained the situation. I apologized for my absence, and I said, look, if I could just come back, I will do nothing but focus on this course and I will give it my all. And he said, okay, I can extend it for 3 months. Let's do it. From there, things started changing, because the beauty of the school is that you go through such a profound self-discovery. It is almost like a self-development, because to really heal others, you have to heal yourself first so you can show up in the best way for others. The school so beautifully guides you through that without you even feeling that you are self-developing. It just asks you the right questions. It serves up the most incredible tools and material, and it just holds the space for you to listen to what's going on inside. And that's when things started to get clearer for me, when I started looking inwards of what actually then really mattered to me. So if you're at a point where you feel stuck, where the life you've built just doesn't feel like your own or where you want it to be, I really hope that you have the courage to reimagine a different way for yourself. Trust the process, even if it's hard. Lean into the discomfort, because that's when growth happens. So I don't profess to have everything worked out, but I am proof that you can change your surroundings, you can change your environment, you can change the path that you thought was success. It's okay for that not to be your path. That is fine. You can change it all. From where I was to where I am now, I feel so much more aligned in myself, so much more fulfilled. And that's just what I want for everybody. One of my favorite quotes that really struck a chord with me when I watched the film, The Curse of Benjamin Button. The quote goes, I hope you feel things you never felt before. I hope you meet people who have a different point of view. And I hope you live a life you're proud of. And if you're not, I hope you have the courage to start all over again. And that's the message that I want to leave people with, that I hope you find that courage in you, that if you're in a situation where it's not aligning, you feel there's more out there for you, there's something's just not quite right. Just explore that feeling. Just create the time to spend with that feeling and listen to it and allow the space. I wish I'd done that a lot earlier. And if you feel comfortable, I'd love for you to write in the comments and tell me what one small step you can take today towards the life you really want.
If you found this valuable, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new content from the incredible coaches here at the Jay Shetty Certification School. And if you're ready to take your coaching to the next level, check out the links in the description. I'd love for you to be a part of this journey.